NLL Lacrosse Talk. I'm Candid Frank Stanishi, co-host Gary Grube, and we have two very special guests in Tom Marichak and Bullet Bob Tarring. We went through a story on how they met. Why don't you repeat it for us
All
on
right.
live and on air, if that's okay with Tom?
Yeah,
That
I
is
hope so.
okay.
Anyway, I was coaching at a little college in Baltimore, lacrosse, called Gouster College. And we had camps there that we used our fields. We were close. And I walk out one day to the fields, and here is this gentleman coaching little guys. And I walked over and introduced myself. It was Tom Marichak. And so I watched a while. And the thing that impressed me so much, and I've been doing this for, I'm going to tell you how many years, uh, he was running a teaching camp. And most of the camps and tournaments that I had been exposed to for all the years were take the money, let them play a game or a lot of games, and send them home. Tom was teaching, and that is something that this game needs a whole lot more of. Are camps that teach kids how to play the game, how to respect the game, and there just aren't enough of them. So I hats off to Tom for starting that program.
You get a
Thank
tiny
you.
bit of time for the rebuttal, Tom.
A little bit of time. Bob, that's so nice. That's so nice of you. But yeah, there's not enough instructional camps, as you mentioned. I've had instructional camps for 23 plus years, and unfortunately, it fell by the wayside because of club lacrosse. That's all I can say.
Yeah, club lacrosse has hurt the high school lacrosse programs and parents' pocketbooks.
It's funny, Mark Millen, when we had him on the show a while back, he said exactly the same thing. That club lacrosse onward, we're in great shape. Grassroots levels, we're in not good shape at all.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would be happy to help start a teaching camp down here again if we could get it organized. But thanks, Tom, for coming on. Good notice. Good to see you again. So do you guys, before I start, do you guys have any questions for Tom?
Well, first, just for the regular thing that we do, Tom, how did you pick up a lacrosse stick or the desire to be a part of lacrosse?
Funny story. So Victoria, actually at the time it was Sydney, British Columbia, Sydney, the southern tip of Vancouver Island. We were living there. I was just signing up for baseball at the age of 6.5, I believe. And Andrew Neville was a friend of mine down the street. He was signing up with me. My brother actually left for 2 years to go back playing junior B lacrosse for Nepean in Ottawa. And he came back after 2 years. He had a job. He was young. I think he was 19, 20 when he came back. He says, "You're not playing this wussy sport, baseball." He took my baseball glove and literally chucked it over this big 9-foot fence in the backyard. To his credit, though, to Bill's credit, is he waited for me after school every single day with this old wooden box stick, and he gave me one. He had one, and that's in history. After that, he taught me the game of lacrosse.
I thought you were going to give him credit for clearing the fence.
Yeah, that too, right?
Okay, my question is, before we move over to Bob, my question is, there was a hint of the game at the grassroots has a bit of a problem, but the fact is the game is very interesting. How do you think introduction to the game can be improved to entice players to take part?
You want me to answer that, Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
So obviously, development camps, like I mentioned, there's not enough of them still. Really teaching the kids the basics of how to get better, just the fundamentals of scooping and throwing and catching. A lot of teams now start thinking these kids are already adjusted and know how to play right away, but they're not really getting the teaching and learning in their early years like they used to, and that's a shame. I remember going back to Victoria, and we're kind of the numbers are really low with youth lacrosse, and I was dumbfounded when I heard in Victoria that the numbers are low, and the lack of coaches. Lack of coaches obviously you don't have any coaches. You're not going to teach kids the proper form and to improve and develop. So that's a problem right now I see for the grassroots is there's just not enough youth coaches, and we need to get together, the governing body of, especially British Columbia lacrosse, and I'm sure, Ontario, just to start, with that, the development piece, and we need more help.
Yeah, that is a 2-level problem, because the first level, if you have coaches, then you have to worry about them being qualified. But if you don't have coaches, that's a real issue that needs to be attended to. Gary, what's your question?
Well, the other part of that really is, you're talking about BC lacrosse. Here in Ontario, we have the problem of the OLA trying to get it together with the Canadian Lacrosse Association and trying to get one uniform thing and have them all on the same page, because we got all kinds of things scattered, and I'm sure BC's got the same problem.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, Bob, take her over. Oh, sorry, Gary.
Go ahead, Gary.
Go ahead, Bob.
Well, no, I have a bunch of things to run by Tom, but
I actually wanted to talk just with the Worlds going on right now. With your connection with the Worlds back in '98, what's your take on the things that are going on now and the development of some of these other countries, Japan, Israel, some of these ones that haven't been big forces along the way that have made a name, especially in this one?
I think it's spectacular. I think it's great to see these countries like Jamaica. I watched that Jamaica game last night against Canada, and they have some good players on that team, Division One. I think it's a great thing for the development of the game, for the sport. It gets other people in the world excited to play lacrosse at an early age. And like I said, but I think there still needs to be more youth lacrosse in all those countries to develop and get them up to speed with Canada and US and Australia. So I think it's a great thing. But and I remember that specifically. 1998 was the first time all these countries came in. I remember in Homewood Field and at Johns Hopkins, and I was looking at the schedule, and there was a blue division, there was a red division, and I didn't understand what was going on. There was Scotland, there was Wales, and I think it's great for the sport of lacrosse.
Absolutely.
What was your first World Games, Tom? Which one was the first?
My first World Games was right after my sophomore year at Syracuse. It was in Perth, Australia, 1990. So that was an exciting World Games, and I remember having an exhibition game at Royal Athletic Park in Victoria before the whole team took off. It was in East-West Canada, kind of like a scrimmage, and we were kind of ambassadors for Victoria, showing Victoria the field lacrosse version of the game, because most of the fans in the stands were box Victoria Shamrock fans. Mm-hmm. And I remember going on a flight from Victoria to LAX, Los Angeles, to Honolulu, and then we're on our route to Australia. And it's a funny story because I had no idea. I'm always remember looking at a globe. I had a globe in my bedroom as a kid, and Australia looked, like this, and North America looked like that. So I obviously thought Australia was so much smaller than North America. And I remember the captain going on the mic after, we've been flying for hours and hours and hours. He goes, "All right, folks, we're just passing over Sydney, Australia." And I was so relieved that we're in Australia, Sydney, Melbourne, and we were going to Perth, which is the West Coast. So I looked at the flight attendant. I said, "Ma'am, what are we, like 45 more minutes left to Perth?" And she goes, "Oh no, Sonny, we're at 4 hours and 45 minutes left." So I was like, "What? What are you talking about? Is Australia that big?" And I had no idea, because I remember looking at the globe, and Australia's there, and North America's there. But it's a big country.
I went the next time. It was in Australia, and it was literally 35 hours from my driveway in Baltimore to Perth, Australia. 35 hours between flights and waiting in LA. And I've never experienced anything like that as far as I've ever been away. But once you got there, the Aussies loved us, right? Right, Tom? They loved us once we got there.
Yeah, they were nice. They were very good
Wonderful
people. Yeah, very hospitable. And it was fun. But it was their winter. Everybody.
It is their winter. So, Perth the ocean was a little cold.
Yeah.
I just remember that. But following up with Gary's statement, the development of these new countries, and I used to be head of what's now USA Lacrosse way back in the first 82 World Games. I was the chairman of that, or co-chairman of that, and that was only 4 teams: U.S., Australia, Canada. That's when John Grant Sr. was playing for Canada, and we had guys like John Tucker and everybody that were from the States, and that was also a very good final game. But USA Lacrosse with the new, and Mark was on with us last time I was on, is looking at youth development, but they're looking at sixes. I see the positive side of that, which is developing countries don't have a lot of kids to get into the game, so it's an easier entry. The other side of it is, it's box and field are our games, and it's just not the same. How do you feel that, Tom? And you're watching both. You played not sixes, but you played box, both.
Yeah, I think it's good in a way because, like you said, the expense, it's not very highly expensive. You don't have to buy that much pads and equipment for the kids. It's a faster game. I've always been a big advocate for box lacrosse because it is a quick, fast game up and down the floor. Sometimes the field game gets a little staled and there's a lot of stalling. Obviously, not as much because they do have a shot clock. But I think the sixes format's fine. I think it's a good start. Shorten the fields, of course, and get the guys going. Everybody, have short sticks in their hands and play the game at a fast pace. We want to make this game fast. Let's be honest. Nobody's going to watch lacrosse if it's slow.
Well, Mark also come up with a point when we were talking, Bob, was that as a grassroots level, like you're talking about, Tom, instead of having it as regular field lacrosse like we see it now, where you could have the non-athletic kid being given a stick, put in midfield, and kind of hope the ball doesn't get to him, kind of like the right fielder in baseball. With sixes, they're all running around everywhere, and they're learning the game without even knowing they're learning the game. So it might be a good thing, grassroots level, again, to kind of get kids more interested and keep them longer. Once we get them, then we can teach them the traditions and then all the other things about the game.
And they could graduate up to field and traditional box lacrosse, and that's
absolutely
kind of the way I feel. I mean, the sixes is really box lacrosse outside. And I've talked to some of the players that have played in the Birmingham tryouts. Most of it's for the Olympics. The powers to be wanted to present a fast game, as Tom said, a high-scoring game. But some of the players that play it get bored by the fourth quarter because all they're doing is scoring up and down. And, the really good ones, they kind of lose their interest by the end of the fourth quarter. But it's a great entry level. And unfortunately, we are Olympic sport now, but no guarantee we're going to be in the next Olympics. But this is the format that they have accepted. And there will be some rule changes because they're trying to tweak it so it looks better and substitutions and all that kind of stuff. But I agree. It's a great entry level type of sport.
But let's be clear that when it comes to lacrosse and box lacrosse, North American countries, that being Canada and US and some European countries, have indoor arenas. You don't have the luxury of that in many of the Olympic countries. So there has to be a compromise made, and this compromise gives an opportunity for the game of lacrosse. And we've talked about this so often. It's an opportunity to put it on the world stage in a big environment, and the Olympics is a very big environment. So I think everybody should support the sixes because of what the intention is and what the hope is, and I agree with what was said as far as then you can move into box lacrosse or traditional field lacrosse.
Well, if we do get to the Olympics, it will be international exposure. It will bring sponsors. It will help hopefully develop programs that Tom and I have talked about in terms of, the interest level will peak if we get there. And we don't know what's going to happen. That's up to the Olympic Committee to make that vote. So we'll just have to wait and see. Tom, we're going into the finals, the semis and the finals tonight between us and and you and Native Americans and Australia, good for them. They're still in it. Everybody predicts it's going to be us against you on this weekend. I think the Native Americans are going to have the Haudenosaunee. You're going to have something to say about that. You've watched how close they've come to both the big teams. What do you consider? I've worked with the Haudenosaunee. I helped start them in '83. I went up in Orange Lions and I signed a contract. We gave them money from the foundation to put their first team ever on the field back in 1983. And they watched the growth. They couldn't even play defense back then. Who's your biggest rivalry, both box and field, U.S. or the Haudenosaunee?
Well, obviously for field, it's U.S. Let's look at the history between U.S. and Canada and all the World Games.
Yep.
It was like Bob, you said, you were right. We never really were taught how to play defense with a 6-foot pole back in the 80s and 70s. U.S. just they were taught, and there's a lot more U.S. players that try out for the World Games every year over Canada. So right there, they have an advantage. But now that Canadian players are going to college, Division 1, 2, and 3,
yep,
they're getting the right training to play defense and know the slide packages and know how to really play field across defense. We never had that before. So I was very fortunate. In 1990, I played with Kevin Alexander, my brother Billy Marichek on attack, Stan Cochran, believe it or not.
Yes, I know Stan.
Stan was playing with me on attack as well. And our defense were great guys, but they're all box, mostly Victoria players that year and a couple Easterners, but they never really played field across. They weren't really taught how to play defense, how to poke check, how to, stay with their man or play a zone. So we were at a disadvantage defensively. Offensively, if you look back at the records, we scored enough goals to win a game, but we just couldn't stop it on the other end. So 1990 moved around. 94 is my second one in Manchester, England. Same problems we had. We had a couple of good offensive players. John Tavares joined us in 94. And we had a good offensive team. But again, our defense just wasn't that great. And thank goodness, 1998, we finally had Steve Toll and, some guys that knew how to. Tommy Fair got better on defense. Chris Anderson was a goal. In 98, I mean, it was a spectacular game. We were getting killed, as you know. Everybody forgot about that. I think it was 11-1 in the championship game, and a lot of people left the stands at Homewood Field. And the story goes, I don't know, Bob, if you remember this, because you're.
Oh, I was there.
You were there. The story goes, I guess, it was so boring that they were slaughtering us. I remember seeing the Homewood fans just clear out, and there was nobody left. Then we made the huge run. It was 11-1, 11-2, 11-3, 11-4, and all of a sudden the stands filled back up. So the story goes, I hear people had it on the radio going to their homes,
and turned around and came back.
Turned around and came back, which is pretty cool. And one of the best games I've been involved with, associated with, was that. Then obviously Brody Merrill came in, thank goodness, later on, and then from there when Brody joined, I believe in 06. That was his first. 06 was in London, Ontario. We won it finally. Got the monkey offer back. First time we won it since 1978. That's a long time. But ever since that, I think a lot of people saw Brody, and they more and more defensemen went to college, Division I, and now we're a team to be reckoned with in the World Games.
And Brody's still playing 20 years later.
I know. I thought I was old at 39.
I don't know how he's doing it.
I thought I was old. I think I was 39 when I finally hung it up, but I could have waited one more year, but I have kids and everything.
He was playing. He's still playing at a high level. He's still picking up one of the best attackmen every game. So God bless him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's great. What was it like to play with the Gates? I just ran into Gary at dinner at the Valley Inn the other night, and just a little story. I asked him what he was doing. Obviously, he's recruiting, and he's got a real challenge there, and also working with Petro. That's got to be interesting, as you all know. How was it like playing with the Gates? And that had to be a thrill. And you did it both pros and college, right?
Yeah. So it's funny. We played in this system, this organization called Victoria Sea Spray. It was kind of a select team that started after our, I was Saanich. They played Saanich. Then this Victoria Sea Spray was formed in the early 80s. They always played a year up, and they played with the Pepper Twins, my best friend, Robbie Dillon, Warren Blackwell, Greg Batters, all these guys that, were really sensational lacrosse players. And actually the Peppers were better than the Gates back in when they were young.
Sacrilege.
I know. So I'll tell you the true story, because we used to have to scrimmage the Peppers back when I was young, and I'd be like, oh, damn it. But this sucks, because we were good in our age group, but they were so much better in their age group. It would be 10-0 after the first period. And it was sad. It was so demoralizing that I said, why are we scrimmaging the Peppers? Goddamn Pepper team. I hate these guys. And the Gates came on not for a while until Victoria Sea Spray were formed. The Gates got taller than everybody, got stronger, faster. And that's when the Gates really took off. So they weren't the best as kids until I want to say 14 is when they started sprouting. And
wow.
But it was great. I started getting picked up to play with the Victoria Sea Spray with the Gates and Peppers in midget. That was the first exposure for me to play with the Gates. Sensational. We take a little ferry ride or a little plane ride to New West or Burnaby from Victoria, and I'd play, and then it was great. And then obviously junior, I was picked up again young. I think I was 15 when I played my first junior A game with the Gates and Peppers. And ever since that 15, I played with them all my life after that, and won the Minto Cup finally in 1988 with them. Lost 3, 85, 86, lost 3 in a row before that. So got the monkey off our back winning that Minto Cup in 88 in front of our home fans in Victoria. And the Gates are great players, and the only problem is there's probably wasn't enough balls on the floor, because
well, yeah,
I needed the ball. I needed the ball. They needed the ball. I'm a righty. They're a lefty. That was the only problem. There wasn't enough balls. And I remember one game Paul Gate was on my line. Gary was only second line. Paul and I were on the first line. We used to tease Gary all the time. And I think Paul had 31 points one game. I think I had 29 points one game. We beat this team 42-7. It was just stupid. But Paul and I were laughing because we always bugged Gary that he was a second liner.
But how was it?
Just curious about the nickname Hollywood. When did that stick? Was that through college, or did that once you hit the NLL?
No, it was that stupid kid, Greg Pepper, in the locker room during Minto Cup. He had, I was flashy. I was a flashy player. I was a team guy. I always sang on the buses, on the plane, in the locker room. I was a singer. I sang all the songs. And I kind of like my hair. It was feathered back, kind of like yours, Gary. It's in the middle.
Hollywood.
Yeah. So basically, Greg Pepper in my stall in Memorial Arena had signs. Tom Hollywood Marichek. He had this big comb in the thing. He's had music, CDs, and I was like, "You son of a bitch!" I couldn't believe that. So basically, in the papers, Times Colonist, he mentioned it again, and from the Minto Cup on, it stuck. But it's a little mixture of who I am as a person and the way I played the game with a little bit of flair. That's why. That's the only reason why the Hollywood came in.
Wasn't a little bit of flair, Tom. I watched you for your whole career. It was just a little bit more than a little bit of flair. Yeah, okay. We'll buy that. Did you enjoy playing with them in the MILL? I mean, you started out at Toyota, and then the pros came along. Remember that?
Yeah, no, it was great. So after college, my first club season was with Mount Washington Wolfpack, 1995. I took a year off. Didn't play anything for like a year and a half after Syracuse, and my first experience was that Mount Washington. Gary, actually, Paul didn't play that year; it was just Gary. And from then, Team Toyota was formed in '95 fall, and I started playing with Paul and Gary for Team Toyota for I think 4 years. But during that time as well, the Philadelphia Wings. I got traded. I took a year off. I was actually one of the second draft picks for the Buffalo Bandits, and I wasn't ready. I was still dating my girlfriend at Syracuse, finishing school. I didn't really feel like playing for the Buffalo Bandits, not for any particular reason. But I just wanted to take a year off. I was tired, exhausted from my 4-year Syracuse career. I called Mike French from Philadelphia Wings. He called me back and he goes, "All right, Tom, just sit this one out. We're going to trade you." So I took a year off, and the rest was history. I came in 94, my first season for the Wings, 94. Played with Paul and Gary, 94. Yeah. Then Paul leaves. He starts his team called Rochester Nighthawks in 95. And I'm like, "What are you doing? You're leaving me. That's only 1 year with you for the Wings." But he started the Rochester Nighthawks, helped start it. He was obviously their big key player, franchise player. But I stuck around with Gary. So Gary played on the Wings 94, 95, 96, 97. So I played with Gary for 4 years on the Wings. Then the Baltimore Thunder grabbed him. Good old Denny Townsend. I think he had a bucket of money waiting in his locker room for Gary. So
yes, he did. I was part of that.
So Gary jumped. I didn't, because I loved Philly. I loved the fans. I loved my teammates. I could have taken more money, but I said, you know what? I love the Wings, so that's why I stayed.
Talk about when you first got in there as, I guess it had been October 93, and training camp. Was it what you expected, or was it completely foreign from anything you'd seen before?
Well, it was, because I haven't played much box, Gary, in a while. From Syracuse, I didn't go back to Victoria in the summers and play. So I had to get used to the whole box system again, the pick and rolls, the two-headed cross checks.
Right.
It took me a while to adapt. Those players were good. They were good athletes. And don't forget, most of them were all Americans back then still, but they were all good athletes, and it was a team, and it was hard. I did not look good the first 2 weeks. I was kind of worried. I'm like, all right, Tom, I got to get in shape. I got to learn this box game again. And ever since I started getting in shape more, practice started coming easier to me. My mind kept coming back at my old days with Victoria, the Esquimalt Legion. Then I just clicked. After probably 2 weeks, I had a scrimmage and started scoring goals, and it felt like riding a bike again. So it wasn't easy though, Gary, to answer your question coming right in.
Yeah, because the team had 2 finals finishes the 2 previous years, so they were already a home team. So it would really be difficult to step into that, right?
It was. I watched Gary play and Paul at the Odd in Buffalo, 93 championships. My girlfriend was from Lewiston, New York, right outside of Buffalo. So I was staying with her, and we just went to that championship game at the Odd, and I looked around. I've never been to an MILL game. I'm looking around going, holy shit, this is unbelievable. Jammed packed, unbelievable packed Odd. And I'm like, I can't wait to do this next year. So the Wings unfortunately lost by a goal that year. I think Darius Kilgore scored on the man up. Kevin Alexander, who's still a good friend of mine, was even playing with bandaged knees and everything, but he's still putting some goals in for Buffalo. That was a first exposure to pro indoor lacrosse for me. And I just got excited when I saw that game, going, I'm playing for the Wings. I already know I'm going to play for the Wings next year.
That's great. I had the privilege of getting to know Kevin and Stan Cockerton pretty well. Kevin Alexander, no deference to you, is one of the incredible shooters I've ever seen. I have never seen. I watched him practice when he was playing for Canada. Unbelievable. He could hit the corner from anywhere. He was amazing. And Stan's son went to Virginia, where I worked, and one of the greatest players. That 3 of you on the attack would scare any team anywhere. So, and talking to Gary, we were looking at. I had made a suggestion to Lars Tiffany last year. I work a little bit with the Virginia team about getting a reunion together with Roy, Oren, and Jimmy Brown. I got them together in '83, which was a little before your time, for that first Lacrosse International. They came in. That's the first year of the Haudenosaunee, and also Syracuse was in that tournament. Unfortunately, we lost Jimmy. So, in talking to Gary at dinner, I wasn't having dinner. I just interrupted his. We're in the Dome next year, UVA and Syracuse, and you remember the history of those games. They were unbelievable. And he was talking about the 21-20 game when Pals were playing. Do you remember that one?
I did. I was actually watching that I still remember this, Bob. Remember Meadow Mill?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, it's absolutely.
I used to play squash at Meadow Mill a lot in Baltimore.
So did I a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, and I watched that game on TV while I was on one of the exercise machines. And I remember Casey Powell had like 9 goals or something ridiculous.
Yeah, something incredible.
It was 22-21. Was that the score?
22-21. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So Gary wants to have that reunion next year, but that time it'll be just Orrin and Roy, and he wants to put 20,000 people in the Dome. And he says he can do it. I don't know. Maybe.
You know when the last time that happened, Bob?
Mm-mm.
Last time that happened, if my memory's correct, was in 1990, and it wasn't against the team you would think it would be. It was a homecoming game at Syracuse. It was against Hobart.
Oh my gosh!
It was Hobart, and we had 20,000 plus for a regular season game. You know, us being Division I, Hobart was Division III.
Yeah.
And I think that probably was the record until that game. So yeah, he wants to come back to that. It would be nice to get 20,000 back in that Dome.
Well, look, I'm a lacrosse guy, and just watching Syracuse and being very close friend of Roy Simmons, and for years and years, I'd love to see Syracuse back. It's good for the game. It's good for competition. It puts the ACC back on the map again. So, and he's doing a good job with his recruiting. He's gotten a good class coming in, and plus he already had some kids last year. So, knowing Gary, it'll be back. You guys will be back in the top 10 very quickly. So
yeah,
that's the way you feel.
Yeah, I do. I went up there for an alumni weekend back in March, I believe. I took my son Kerner, who's a rising senior now. Kerner loved it. Kerner's dream is to play at Syracuse, but there's some other schools interested. So I went there. We had a good time. Had a good 3 days with Gary. He explained everything, what he's trying to do, what his goal is, what his methodology is. He's right on. You know, Gary's a winner. You know that.
Oh, absolutely.
He's a winner. He's only going to get the best of the best out of every kid.
Well, he's a draw. I mean, let's face it. And Petro certainly has a draw too.
Yeah.
You know, you got 2 head coaches that probably bang heads in the meeting room occasionally, but they're getting the job done. That's the great part about it. What did you think of the pro league from the NLL to the PLL? I mean, what has been your vision about your thinking about what that's like, and now the changes that Paul Rabel wants to do?
I think it's good for the game. You know, I enjoyed my years with the Baltimore Bayhawks with the MLL. I thought that was very well run myself. I like, obviously, the TV contract is a little nicer now with the PLL.
Yeah.
Players aren't that much different. You know, I don't think they're much better than they were when I played. We had some all-star players back in the MLL days. I like the no equipment look. It's sleek.
Yeah.
Field dimensions are a little tighter. But I just like the presentation of the games. They're more classic. They're more professionally done on TV, and it's fast. It's a fast-paced game, which is great. They get the ball moving, and there's no slowing the ball down behind. And and I keep saying this. I lost my last game at Syracuse in 1992, double overtime to Princeton, with Beal Tierney. And he knew the only way to beat us was to slow the ball down, and he was successful. He won because of that, and it was an ugly game of lacrosse to watch.
Here's a question for you. Taking a look at the teams that you had, like your Syracuse team, do you think that most of them would make it to the teams that we have now with Maryland and some of the other teams that are going at full bore now with the college system?
Definitely our starting lineup. Definitely our starting lineup at
I agree. Totally agree.
Especially our 1990 lineup.
Right.
Our 1990 team. And some of our second stringers for sure. But after that, maybe not that much. We didn't have the training regime that you have today. We didn't have to lift weights back in my era. You could go out every night as a student athlete. You sometimes didn't eat the healthiest foods. Now it's all about that, right? It's about the mental piece, the leadership piece, the nutrition piece, not only training, strength and conditioning, speed, agility. It's about the mental piece and the nutrition piece that's all these colleges are finally getting into. And that's what we do well here at IMG Academy is all of that holistically.
That's what I want to tie in with it also. At IMG, you have to talk to also parents who have unreal expectations because, of course, every parent thinks their kid's going to be Division I no matter what. How do you deal with all of that?
I call my coaches up and say, "Hey, this guy wants to talk to you." No. I basically, yeah. No, I'm very, very realistic with these parents. I'm very transparent. That's why I probably am good at what I do. I said, no, John Smith, forget about Duke, Maryland, Notre Dame, Syracuse, Hopkins. Let's look at maybe a Richmond or a Bellarmine or something lower D1. Let's look at that list first. Then that doesn't work. Hey, D2 is a very good division. They offer athletic scholarship. If there's great schools in D2, there's a lot more schools that play D2. When I played, I think there was 4 schools in Division 2.
Right.
Now there's 78, I think I counted last week.
Yeah, I think it's 78. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. So, but I'm realistic with those guys. And the college placement piece is what we do the best at IMG. We'll have kids in my office. We'll have my coaches right here, and we'll have a piece of paper, the one student by himself or herself, and we'll help her write down names. What school do we think you could play at? This is what our list is. You give me a list now of what you want to play at, and let's start breaking it down how this works. So holistically, the parents get to know right away from us that he is not going there. We really, since I've been here 4 years, not one argument from any parent.
Would it be fair to say that it's not as simple as going to the best school? It's also the best fit. In other words, floor time can be a factor.
Absolutely. Do you want to be a big fish in a small pond and play a lot? You want to be a small fish in a huge pond. That comes in. You've got to add, and that has to come in the conversation. I know myself, I couldn't sit on the bench. No way. I had to play all 4 years. If I went to Syracuse and didn't play much, I probably would try to transfer. And no, transfer was very hard back then.
Yeah.
Now it's like, your second language is transfer portal, which is really sad these days.
Right.
But yeah, you got to talk about what school do you want to go to? What do you fit into? How that coach from the college sees you. You might be a great attackman, but they need a midi, and you can play midi. You might play D midi. I've had guys I sent that were offensive middies that became D middies for these schools. So there is a lot of conversation, Frank, about that, and you're right.
Yeah, so you actually evaluate, and I've always meant to ask you this at IMG. Do you put the kids to the same college regime? Because I know we at Virginia, we own you. We basically own you while you're there, and you are, you're in the weight room, you're in nutrition, you're in the training room. We have study hall.
Yeah.
I know at Virginia, Lars has a book reading where they read a book and discuss it in the groups. The culture is great. So are you adjusting all that in IMG, preparing them for that?
Bob, absolutely. We do all that and more. We have our culture is the biggest part of our program. The culture is one piece that we need to have these kids buy into our system is very important. Our school's not for everybody. IMG is not for everybody. A, it's not cheap. B, it's for players, boys and girls that we have here that are really serious about getting bigger and stronger faster, being prepared for college, finding the right college. We do that through our nutrition. our mental coaches. We have a mind gym over there in the Gatorade Performance Center that is amazing. Like these kids are taught, they have reaction boards. They're all timed. They're all fit in the computer from the day they get in here until the day they leave for summer. We see the progress every week by week of every single player, and the parents, even more importantly, the parents see the value in what we give these kids. And we're very transparent with these parents with the IDPs. You know, we have the IDPs, which is a report card that come out 4 times a year, quarterly, that the parents see. It's great. Their kids are graded 1 through 5 for specific positions, poke checks, clearing as a defender, ground balls. It's all graded, and the parents see it, the kids see it, and so it's a huge cadence what we do here every single day.
That's such a change from me coaching college back, because we had to make that decision, one, on the high school coach's recommendation, 2, with them sitting in the office for half an hour or 45 minutes and trying to make those judgments. So you're putting the whole package together for the coaches.
We are. It makes it easier, because listen, at the end of the day, the coaches, they do a lot of work. You know, our coaches get here in the office 8:30 every morning. It's a job. It's a full-time college job. They're not teaching. They're not a history teacher, a PE teacher by day and put a whistle on and go on the field at 2:30 like a lot of schools. Right. They're here working for every family. The time they walk in this office, maybe talking to a college coach, maybe talking about their grades with the academic teacher. So that is what we do here. And it's for every kid, boys and girls. We have 2 girls teams that will be forming this fall, and 2.5 boys teams. So it's a big program. Our program's getting much bigger right now.
So I guess something like what was,
deal, right?
Sorry,
that's okay. I was just gonna say,
like the Hill up here in Canada, or is it more extreme?
Just a little more extreme. We have a lot more resources here. Obviously, it's 700 acres, 22 Bermuda fields, 3 turf fields, stadium, performance centers, nutrition, dining hall. It's it's bigger than Syracuse. There's no colleges like this place.
Wow. What's your
so
percentage
focus,
of placement?
right?
Pardon me?
So it's all
Go
about
ahead,
focus.
Frank.
Sorry, man.
Go ahead, Frank.
So it's all about focus.
It's all about focus. And like Bob says, I don't like the word we own you, but we do own you. We do have weekends off for the kids. We let the kids go play club lacrosse for their club teams. You know, if they want to go get looked at a showcase, we let them go. You know, we have them pretty much just Monday through Friday every day. And we talk to the academic staff. Every Tuesday, we have a meeting with the deans and teachers. And we know exactly what kids are not doing their work. And we'll tell the families and the student. We'll have students in my office saying, "You got a D+ right now in math. With what's going on?" And we you know, it all helps, because the more transparent you are with these families, the better, and especially for these students, because you know that it's hard to get into colleges. I'm lucky that I'm not a kid right now trying to get into Syracuse. With my grades back then, I wouldn't have a shot. Right. So it's a lot harder to get into these universities. I don't care if you're the best athlete in the planet. You got to do your schoolwork.
And you have different tiers of teams, right? Because you also have a national team that tours and travels, right?
Yeah, we have the national team, which is composed of some post-grad kids, obviously some seniors, and a couple juniors. We backfill that team with some of the varsity kids, and we travel. You know, we had a team. I'm looking at my schedule. We played Deerfield, Taft, Choate, Trinity Pauling, DeMatha. We play some big time schools, and you know, and we do well. We were nationally ranked last year. I think we got up to 9 for a little bit, but in a perfect world, yeah, it'd be nice to be nationally ranked every year. But what we do that no other school does is development. The development piece and preparing them, time management to get bigger, stronger, faster with our athletic performance staff, and helping them place in college placement. Those are the 2 biggest assets that we have here, and we do that very, very well.
Also drilling home old habits of fighting a wall when they're off campus.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, Tom, what is your percentage of placement for college for your guys? It doesn't
96.
matter, D1, 2, 3, it doesn't matter.
It's 96% this year for the
Wow.
whole program, girls and boys.
That's incredible.
96%.
Yeah, well, Brody can't even brag on that one.
No, not even close.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. What value are the DVDs that you guys work with them or not?
No, we really don't. Like I said, we use those. We do use social media. Huddle we use.
Yeah. Okay.
We break down film and Huddle and obviously kids are so they're geniuses. These kids can go on YouTube and make their own highlight.
I
And
know.
take bits and pieces from the Baltimore tournament, the New York tournament, cut them down. My sons actually they made their own too, and we help them. You know, we basically explain, you're going to send a letter. We're going to help you draft that letter up for the college coach. You're going to send that letter, CC us on it, so they know we're connected. And if they don't get back to you in 2-3 weeks, I usually give it 3 weeks. We will reach out. You know, Coach, Petramala, what do you think about John Smith on attack? Do you need anybody in the 2025 class, Phil? And we'll reach out. And we're very transparent. We don't just do it once. We do it all year round until these kids are finding the place that they really want to go. And some kids go to places they didn't really want to go to, but at the end of the day, it was the best fit for those kids because they get to play a lot, like Frank mentioned earlier. They get to play.
There's always that challenge for the last 4%, right?
Yes, there is always that challenge. You're right.
Well, what you're doing, I mean, I helped coach at Loyola High School this year. I moved down a little bit from the college level. And I'm very familiar with the high school coaches that I've been working with them on the other side for years. What you guys are doing, we had some very good players this year on Loyola, and we actually beat McDonough, the number one team in the country. The only
I saw that.
The only team that did that. And we have some very good players. But I'm watching the other coaches, and you know them all, Hildy and all the rest. They don't push like that. I mean, they make a contact, or maybe a huddle comes up, but I don't know a school that I've worked with or watched that does the kind of contact that and follow up that you guys do. I've never heard of that.
Right. And the reason is a lot of the high school coaches these days rely on their club coach, their summer club coach.
Yes, unfortunately, yes.
And unfortunately, a lot of our kids, don't forget, a lot of my kids come from non-traditional lacrosse areas. You know, we have kids from Chicago. We have 4 from Utah. So these kids don't have the coaching, and these coaches don't know how to reach out to any college coach to help them.
That's true.
You know, so that's where we come in to help. So we don't just get we don't get that many Baltimore kids, and we don't get that many Long Island kids, but we get all these other kids that's pretty much why they're here, to get better and help with the recruiting aspect of it.
Well, the kids all over the country. I mean, just to give an example, the starting defense and goalie for Virginia this year, the All-Americans and the great goalie, all were from west of the Mississippi. That's the first time that's ever happened.
Right.
Every one of them.
Right. And we're sending a kid, Elijah Stobaugh, a lefty midfielder that just grew up right here in little Puppy Breath Bradenton. We only have a little Rex team called Manatee Wildcats. He grew up in that system. He did play for Sweet Lax in the summer and worked at his game. And he's a strapping 6'3" midfielder. He's going to start. I think he's going to play a lot for Maryland, for Tillman next year. And Braden Erksa, who I'm very proud about, he just finished his freshman year at Maryland, and he was the Big Ten Freshman of the Year on attack.
Yep. Wow! Yes, he was. I remember that.
So we had Braden here last year, and he asked me questions. I don't really coach much, but I do like going out in the fields, and if I'm seeing a guy do something wrong, if they're dodging from X wrong or they're shooting, too quickly, I went to Braden a lot of times and said, you got to relax when you shoot. You're just shooting to shoot. You got to look at a spot and fire it and make sure you score a goal. You don't just shoot to shoot. And he always remembered that, stuck in his head when I told him.
Well, I think you get people's attention, Tom, when you say something. There's no question about it. Also, the tournaments like it's a question. You going to play at Placid this year?
Bob, I've never played at Placid once. We always took a trip. My family, my wife's from Philadelphia. They've been going to Saranac Lake above Lake Placid for years and years.
Yeah.
But we always went to Saranac right before Placid. And I just never stayed longer because we were in Saranac for 10, 14 days.
Okay.
So I've never played in Saranac. I've never played in Hawaii. All those old timers tournaments. Listen, I played 15 years straight of pro lacrosse, indoor, outdoor. I probably had 37 concussions I don't know about.
Probably.
I don't need some wise ass little kid trying to take me out. Because it might ruin my golf game. But I understand the camaraderie part of playing when I played. I do miss the camaraderie part with my teammates after games. I do miss that.
Yeah.
But day to day, the practice and the traveling and playing, I don't miss that. It was great at the time. I put a lot of years into it, and it's just good sitting back doing what I do.
Well, do you also reach out to prospective members of your college?
My old teammates?
No. I mean players. Is it all just people applied to go to your school, or do you have a reverse role? In other words, do you see people that you may invite to come, almost like a scholarship?
We do both. Yeah, Frank, we do both. We don't have athletic scholarship per se. It's all financial aid based need. Mm-hmm. And that's the unfortunate part. We don't have a big endowment like most schools. All those boarding schools up north, like the Deerfields and Salisbury's, they have a big endowment. We don't have that. Lawrenceville, Joey Size with Lawrenceville, so he's got a couple bucks. I think he has a few bucks, right?
Yeah.
We don't have that, so it's a little more difficult for us to recruit. But no, we're recruiting. We have 2 coaches right now that were just at Naptown. One's in the World Series of Lacrosse right now in Carolina. So we're out there pounding the pavement, not just, in the summer. We're always on NCSA, different platforms to recruit. And that's what we basically do. We're recruiting kids from middle school up to high school and post-grad kids. We get post-grad kids because a lot of times the post-grad kids are not committed yet, or if they are committed, they're not committed to the schools they want to go to. So they think they come to us, bigger, stronger, faster, develop, and then they open a window up, which happened a lot. We do open a new window up or a new chapter for a different college to send them to.
That was a piece I didn't hear, so I'm glad to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, with the blueprint of the school that you've put together, do you see more of these popping up around the States now? Because you've done all the work, so the blueprint is there.
The blueprint's there. You still need good management. You need people behind you. We're very fortunate. Endeavor owned us. They just sold. Endeavor's a very, very lucrative company. So they gave us the resources. The place is incredible, what we have here. But yeah, there's places. I heard Spire, there's Spire in Ohio popped up.
Right.
They're having a hard time because there's no overnight. You gotta find it. You got to start with a place that has overnight, because who are they going to choose from? Just Ohio kids?
Right.
And that's not the right way to do it too. It's a boarding school. So, you have to reach out to every place in different states. So there's not many that have, I'm sure some more will try, but the formula we have is working for us.
And there's a lot of moving pieces that you've put together to make it work that way, which makes it more difficult for someone to copy, I would assume.
Yeah, there's a lot of inside stuff and then capture rate stuff. And there's a lot of business sense. It's a business, and
well, even finding your coaches, right? Because you use teachers who are coaches as well, not just college players, because
exactly.
That doesn't work. Yeah,
exactly. We use real coaches. Like Jason Basso is our national head coach. Mm-hmm. He's been here the longest, over 10 years. He's been here when the program started, actually. Wow. He played at Rutgers, and he coached at Rutgers for over 5 years.
Right.
So he's amazing. So we actually feed off him a lot about this place, of what goes on here, and he's incredible. and he's one of those guys that's all about integrity. He'll challenge every player on his team, and coming back, the parents respect him for that, and it's a good chemistry, a good formula.
Bob, let's give you the last question. We're about out of time.
I don't hear him.
We lost Bob.
Bob, did you accidentally mute yourself? There it is. No? My goodness. Yeah, Bob, we can't hear.
We lost Bob.
You guys can't hear him either?
No.
No.
What a shame. Well, at least it was at the end. Well, Gary, then I'll pass to you the last question.
I actually just want to take the time to thank you for taking your time to come on with us. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you, and I watched your reels. I watched you. Of course, I was traveling to Buffalo during the mill years to catch the Bandits and that crazy odd stuff, and I love it. And every now and again, make it to the Spectrum for that. But to talk to you in person, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time,
Gary. Thank you, guys. Like I said, lacrosse is a great thing. It's still growing everywhere. Midwest, Florida, down here, it's growing. We have a lot of good Florida schools on both coasts. I'm on the Gulf Coast and the East Coast. There's a lot of good schools in Florida and good lacrosse. So the Canadian days were great. I miss those. I'm actually going back home the end of July for just to hang with my mom and my immediate family's still there, and my buddies. All my buddies I played junior A with and growing up with. It's like a reunion every time I go home, so I'm excited about that. We'll do some salmon fishing, halibut fishing, and maybe have a couple Canadian beverages back there. So it'll be fun. Awesome. It'll be fun. And no, I want to thank you guys. I watch your show. You guys do a great job.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks very much. And as always, Bob, I thank you so much for getting Tom with us and to come on the show again. And looking forward to doing more work with you in the future. Appreciate everything you do for us.
Sorry we had the problem with your mic. That's terrible.
So I have to say one thing. So for Frank and Gary, good luck Canada tonight. Bob, I'm not staying up that late, Bob. I can't stay up at 11 o'clock. Watch the USA Australia game. Way too late for it's my bedtime. So I can't wait to watch Canada game. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, 8 o'clock Eastern, so it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Great game. All right, guys, thanks for doing this. I'll give you my thank yous to Bob Taring. Sorry about the technical difficulties. And, of course, Tom Marichek, Hollywood Tom Marichek, apparently. And, of course, Gary Groove, myself, Candid Frank. Thanks for watching, everybody. Pick up a stick sometime. You might find out you love the game. Thanks for watching NLL Lacrosse Talk. Until next time.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.